Traction splints have been a cornerstone of orthopedic treatment for over a century. First introduced during World War I, they were designed to stabilize femur fractures and reduce pain, further prevent damage to surrounding tissues, and limit life-threatening complications such as internal bleeding. Early models were bulky and cumbersome, but advancements in medical technology have led to modern lightweight devices like the Sager Splint, which are more efficient and easier to use in the field. Today, traction splints remain an essential tool for emergency responders. The goal of treatment is to help align broken bone fragments, improve blood flow, reduce pain and muscle spasms, and control bleeding. In this video, we're going to guide you step by step through the application of the Sager Splint and ensure that you feel confident and prepared to use this device when every second counts. So, let's talk trauma.
Okay, so this is what the Sager Splint looks like when we pull it out of the pack. So it comes in several parts. You have the actual splint itself, you have a black stretchy strap, you have two ankle straps. One of them should be attached to the Sager Splint, but if there's not, just know that there are two separate ankle straps. And then because we don't have a second strap in the kits here, we grabbed a stretch bandage to use for our second strap. So this is what it should look like. So the reason that there are two ankle straps is in case you need to use this for bilateral femur fractures. So you can actually secure both ankles to the Sager Splint. But for the purposes of a single midshaft isolated femur fracture, we actually only need one ankle strap, just so we know. So, as we said before, the Sager Splint is for an isolated midshaft femur fracture. So the first thing that we're going to do, once we have exposed the injury, is we're going to assess the patient and assess the limb. Before we make any intervention, we're going to assess the patient's pain, as well as pulse in the affected limb, sensation in the affected limb, and see if the patient can move. So we'll check motor function as well. So after we've assessed our pulse, motor, and sensation, we're ready to apply the splint. So the splint comes in a few parts. You have the part that actually is going to come seat up against the pelvis. What you'll notice is that part of it bends, okay? The easiest way to remember how to orient this is I just remember that bends goes toward the bottom, so B for bottom. So bends goes down toward the bottom, and you'll angle it laterally. So if the fracture, in this case we're going to say is on the patient's right leg, we're going to angle this so it faces laterally toward the right on the patient, okay? The other thing is if it's on the other limb, no problem. You'll see there's a black button right here. If you push that, you can lift this off and just turn it so it faces the right way. So put this back on. So the other part to remember is that this dial down here, this is going to tell us how much traction we're applying. This needs to face laterally as well. So in this case, if we're doing the patient's right leg, we're going to have this facing outwards towards the patient's right. So once we've assessed our pulse motor sensation, you can have a partner pull gentle traction if needed, but you're going to have somebody help you stabilize the leg. We're going to take the part that seats up against the pelvis, and you're going to seat it right up against the pelvis there. And if this is a male patient, you're just going to make sure that you also are not going to squish the patient's genitalia, so keep that in mind. You're going to angle toward the correct direction, okay? And then we're going to take this pelvic strap here, this ischial strap, and you're going to floss it underneath the patient's leg, okay? This is supposed to seat as high up on the leg as you can. So it shouldn't be sitting down like this, it should be high. It's called an ischial strap, so it should be up where the ischium is. We're going to feed it through the buckle. And we're going to cinch as tight as we can. On the mannequin, it's difficult to get this nice and high, but it's supposed to, just remember, it's supposed to be at a good angle. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to secure the ankle strap. In this patient, she doesn't have a very long leg, so we don't need this to be down super far. This is the part that goes around the ankle bone. You'll see that there's padding on here, and it's got Velcro. So if the patient has a smaller ankle, you can actually move that out of the way so that this will sit better. So we're going to take this with our partner who's going to be helping us. This is going to go around the patient's ankle, and you want this to be above the foot because this is where it's going to pull down traction, right? So as I go to tighten this, you can see that this pad is going to be in the way. So all I got to do is pull that out of the way, and now I can secure this. And like I said, you want this to be nice and tight because that's where the traction is actually going to be. This loop goes around the bottom of the patient's foot. And again, that's going to be nice and tight. So once that's secure, the next thing that we're going to do is apply traction. Now remember, like we said before, we're going to apply 10% of the patient's body weight up to 15 pounds or 7 kilograms of traction. So that means if your patient weighs more than 150 pounds, you're just going to go to 15 pounds of traction. That's it. It's easy. So if your patient weighs less than that, then you'll need to figure out 10%. So if the patient weighs 100 pounds, you'll use 10 pounds. If the patient has an open fracture, remember, it'll be just a flat 5 pounds of traction, okay? So we'll come down here, and you see we've got this little bracket here. This is what's gonna hold the traction in place. So we're gonna pull, you'll hear it click, and you'll see the numbers starting to go up, okay? So as I pull, we're going to say that our patient here weighs 150 pounds. So we're going to go all the way up to 15. That's our maximum, okay? We're going to make sure that this up here, this piece is secured, which it is. And at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to reassess CMS in the patient, okay? Or PMS in the patient. So we're going to check, make sure the patient has a pulse, they can feel what we're doing, and that they can still move their foot, and it's at the baseline that it was before our intervention. Then we're going to take our straps, we're going to take the larger one, which is going to go up higher, floss that under the leg, and that should be nice and secure. This is what holds the splint to the patient. Now, because we don't have a second strap, we have this stretch bandage, and this is just part of adapting, right? So you have what you have, but it's the principles that are important. So we're going to take this stretch bandage, we're going to have our partner holding the leg for us so that we can get this around, and all we're doing is holding the splint to the patient's leg. So once we get this on, secure it. This should be nice and straight. And we're going to reassess PMS in the patient's foot, as well as ask them about their pain. And that's going to be an ongoing assessment. So after we have this placed and we have traction on, we're going to reassess at regular intervals the patient's pain, their pulse, their motor, and their sensation in the affected limb. Once traction is placed, we do not remove traction. That'll be at the order of the physician or the surgeon. So that's how we put Sager Splints on. Hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you on the next one.